Oh, look at the time. It's time for Legal AF After Dark. The devil may have went down to Georgia, but so are a lot of Donald Trump and his henchmen trying to get their cases dismissed or file lawsuits against the Fani Willis Fulton County District Attorney. We make sense of it all, tie it all together on Legal AF twice a week, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on this YouTube channel. And then we have audio podcast platforms of your choice. Tune in to an episode of Legal AF Now, where I'm joined by my colleague and friend and guest anchor, Dina Sayeg Dahl on Legal AF. Roll the clip. So we were not surprised then when we got almost a very similar argument. I give him credit for doing it in 6 pages in Georgia. So why don't I kick off Georgia on that, okay, and then I'll turn it back to you for comment. So we get a notice of jurisdictional issue, raising the issue, and what the jurisdictional issue is. A court, and they're right about this, is an appellate court especially, is always making sure that they have at any given time jurisdiction, fundamental jurisdiction over a case. If they lose, and you can lose jurisdiction because various things happen. Somebody moves and you lose diversity jurisdiction, or they move into the state, or there's a change in circumstances, or something has occurred that make the matter moot and there's no more jurisdiction. And here the argument is the changed circumstances is that Donald Trump won. He's now the president-elect and he's doing a transition, sort of. And therefore he can't be bothered or impeded or impaired with the powers of the president-elect or the powers of the president to deal with what's going on in Georgia. And we know Georgia's been stuck in the mud for the last almost, oh my God, it's almost a year, because of conflicts of interest allegations against Fani Willis, and then it went up on appeal and all this other stuff. So you have all of that going on. So they're arguing that you've lost the appellate court that's been trying to decide whether Fani Willis was properly allowed to stay in the case or not, because she had a boyfriend for a minute. They used to work for her on the case. And so they're arguing that jurisdiction has been lost by the appellate court, right? And the trial court, because of the president Trump becoming the new president again. And that's their major argument. They may find some support for that by this appellate court, the Court of Appeals, which is the first level appellate court in Georgia. Then you go to the Georgia Supreme Court, because they've been sitting on this case for a long time. They unilaterally canceled a hearing, an oral argument they were going to have. I think it was even this week. It was supposed to be December 5th. They just said, no, till further notice, we're not even doing the oral argument. So I could see them grabbing this and going, oh, good, thank you. Appeal dismissed. Not even dealing. Let them deal with it at the Georgia Supreme Court level, which leans totally right. What did you make of this 6 pages?
Yeah, it was interesting because, again, they brought in the Department of Justice memo, again, the supremacy, which there's, Lawrence Tribe, as constitutional scholar, really thinks that neither of those technically, or at least the DOJ memo doesn't really apply because we've never been in this situation before. But the argument they didn't include, which I almost thought would have been the better argument for them, is his rights as a defendant. Like, practically, a RICO charge against him is going to be a very long trial, months and months and months. I don't think he could properly assist his case and be in that courtroom and be president at the same time. Could you imagine the number of times they would have to pause the trial because there was some conflict that erupted in the world? So I think they're going to dismiss that case. One, based on the fact that maybe he can't properly execute his duties as president, even though this is weird that they're not starting it while he's president, but after he's become president, but also just as a criminal defendant. I don't see how he could, have his constitutional rights and also be president at the same time. So I think we knew when he was elected that the Georgia case against him was going away. And that's why they only did 6 pages. I don't think this is a difficult legal argument for him to make.
Yeah, just managing expectations. We don't want that to happen. We like it to continue, and we like it, to pick up. Well, certainly it doesn't impact directly the 13 other co-defendants that have all been sued, just because he got immunity, unique superpower because he won the presidency again. Doesn't mean that necessarily helps everybody else. You want to talk us through Ken Chesborough, and I'll talk us through Fani Willis?
Yeah, so this was interesting. So if you remember, Chesborough was one of the people who requested a speedy trial back about a little bit more than a year ago. I think it was September, October of 2023. And promptly, he ended up pleading guilty to filing false documents in federal court with the rest of his counts against him. I think there were about 6 or 7 counts altogether, with the rest of them being dismissed. And part of his deal was for him to testify against the other defendants. I think he also got probation, community service, and a fine. So now the interesting thing is what happened was Judge McAfee months ago, I almost want to say it's like 6 months ago at this point, dismissed a few of the charges that came out of that grand jury relating to things with federal court, like perjury with federal court, filing the documents with federal court, saying that charges related to, let's say, fraud on the federal court need to be adjudicated in the federal court, not the state court. And so he dismissed 3 charges related to them. One of them was, and happened to be, the charge that Chesborough pled guilty to. So his filing is basically, since the judge has said that this is not a valid charge, I have a post-conviction right to vacate basically my guilty plea. That's kind of where we're at with him. It does seem like it took a while to make this motion because Judge McAfee dismissed those quite a long time ago. But that's his attempt right now, is to basically unwind the guilty plea.
You have an interesting way of pronouncing the judge's name.
McAfee?
It's McAfee.
Oh my gosh, I mispronounce things all the time. I think I need a disclosure.
All right, I do it too. And then Ben always, Ben or I will correct each other. I just couldn't do it in the chat, because I couldn't figure out how to make it pronounced
thank
properly.
you. Yeah.
McAfee. So I don't know what took Chesborough, which I also mispronounce regularly. Cheeseborough, I originally called him.
That's a tough one too.
I don't think it's going to work. I think if the case goes away, the case goes away. I don't think you get out from under your plea deal because later on the case went away for somebody like the president, or then now president of the United States. So I think he's screwed. I don't. As we said internally, you should have just waited. I don't know why you took the plea deal.
Right.
This thing kind of got into the mud relatively quickly, but he made the plea deal before the Fani Willis motion to disqualify was against her, before McAfee's evidentiary hearing that, took her down a peg, before all these issues came up. And, he just, I don't know, got bad lawyer advice or whatever, but that's him. Welcome back. We do that show, full-length podcast, an hour every time, Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. New show at the intersection of law and politics I'll be doing on Tuesday nights, Popak Live Tuesday nights on this Midas Touch channel. We don't blow smoke or sunshine. We don't have a censor. We don't have a script. Nobody knows what I'm going to say. Nobody puts baby in the corner. Welcome to the Midas Touch Network. Find out what 50 million people a month. Yep, 50 million people a month already know about Legal AF, that we are the home of commentary and analysis at the intersection of law and politics like no other. But we need your help. Need your help to come join our audience. Give us comments. Give us your thumbs up when you can. And come over and help us build the Legal AF YouTube channel at Legal AF MTN. So until my next Legal AF contribution, I'm Michael Popak reporting. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.